Top 20 fictional cars and movies that we wish existed.
If you are brand new to our channel, we invite you to take a moment to subscribe. Just click on the lit red button as well as the gray bell. Why the bell? Well, it will let you know every time we post a new video.
20.
20. Optimus Prime is the best Transformer. When the original Shia LaBeouf Transformers movie opened in 2007 to earn $300 million, Paramount stamped it a franchise. By the fifth film, Transformers: Age of Extinction, production costs exceeded the domestic gross, though it soared in China, and Mark Wahlberg wasn't enough to breathe new life into the series. The truth is that it wouldn't matter how many A-listers Paramount hired. At this point, even bringing back LaBeouf wouldn't resurrect it. It's likely the awe of these larger-than-life machines wore off, and the sooner Michael Bay realizes this, the better. Considering the scheduled production of Transformers 7, Bay is either delusional, greedy, or both. Of all the Transformers movies, no moment was more powerful than when Optimus Prime first appeared on screen. Prime is still voiced by Peter Cullen, and fans of the toys and TV series rejoiced when they finally heard him in a theater. To perfectly match the ruggedness of Cullen's deep voice, a Peterbilt 379, one of the largest trucks on the road, was used to represent the Autobot leader. Sure, you can buy a used 379 for about $50,000, but Peterbilt never offered a version that could transform into a giant alien robot.
19.
19. What could be more useful than a time-traveling DeLorean? We can't have a list of fictional cars from movies without including Doc's Christopher Lloyd DeLorean from Back to the Future. Back to the Future was the most successful movie in 1985 and is the epitome of a blockbuster. Of the many records the film holds, the most exceptional being is that it was the slowest movie to reach $200 million. This statistic means that Future was #1 at the box office for 11 non-consecutive weeks, and it became an instant classic. This Robert Zemeckis masterpiece deserved its many praises for using a DeLorean DMC12, the most futuristic time machine-looking vehicle ever. Sadly, DeLorean was bankrupt by 1983 due to John DeLorean's arrest. He was found not guilty, but it was already too late. Fortunately, a company in Texas started producing new DeLoreans as a result of the demand stemming from the movie. There's no word on if a flux capacitor comes standard with the $100,000 price tag, but even if it does, plutonium fuel is so expensive right now.
18.
18. The spinner from Blade Runner is still cool in the sequel. 2017 was a sad year for science fiction movies. Aside from Star Wars, The Last Jedi, the sci-fi genre suffered through disappointments like Alien, Covenant, Ghost in the Shell, The Dark Tower, Life, and whatever Valerian in the City of a Thousand Planets was. Its budget was over $200 million, it grossed less than $50 million, and it doesn't make a lick of sense. As bad as these were, Blade Runner 2049 was the most unexpected failure. The original Blade Runner is widely considered to be a sci-fi masterstroke, and the sequel was highly anticipated. Critics loved 2049, and so did the fans. There just weren't enough of them. As a result, the Ryan Gosling redux didn't gross as much as its big-budget price tag. Despite 2049's box office issues, the reboot included a revamped version of Harrison Ford's flying machine from the original, the Spinner. The Spinner is in fact a Peugeot which isn't readily available in the US, but there's no reason to get jealous. The flying version isn't available in Europe either.
17.
17. We still wish for the white Challenger from Vanishing Point. Quentin Tarantino fans appreciate his filmmaking style which often embraces pastiche and homage. Every one of Tarantino's films includes several references to other directors, classic movies, and moments in cinema's history. It's because of Tarantino's own fandom that he made Death Proof, an homage to the grindhouse films of the 70s. The term grindhouse refers to mostly low-budget exploitation films which theaters would run back-to-back throughout the day for cheap admission fees. Grindhouse movies were known to be subpar, but some of them were actually pretty decent, such as the cult classic Vanishing Point. Vanishing Point was distributed by Fox, so it wasn't exactly bottom of the barrel. However, it's still considered to include some of cinema's best chase scenes amidst distinguishing B-movie grit. These chase scenes wouldn't be so cherished if it weren't for Kowalski's 1970 Dodge Challenger RT in Alpine White. 4 white Challengers were manufactured by Dodge for the film, and they weren't modified in any way. Several actors and stuntmen praised the car's durability and performance. As well built as the Challengers were, not one of the 4 RTS used for the film was considered worth salvaging after the damage they took during production.
16.
16. An inconspicuous van made of an illegal substance. For those who plan to become smugglers, Cheech Marin and Tommy Chong's Up in Smoke offers supremely accurate insights into how it's done. Up in Smoke is one of the early examples of a genre of comedy about the use of illegal substances, and it inspired many others that followed, e.g., Friday, Harold, and Kumar Go to White Castle, and Dude Where's My Car? Amazingly, Cheech and Chong's debut film is good enough that it still holds up after 40 years, and the opening scene is one of the all-time funniest. Most importantly, Up in Smoke offers an in-depth look into how real-life smugglers transport illegal things across the border. All this time we thought it was stashed in secret compartments or stuffed into the tires, when it was actually the case that the vans themselves were made out of the substance. From the looks of the van in this movie, there's virtually no way to tell what it is made of. However, it is supremely flammable.
15.
15. If anything could replace the Batmobile, it's the Tumbler. Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy is just about the finest example of a film reimagination, a term used to describe remake with mostly original concepts. Christian Bale became the first Batman accepted as a worthy successor to Michael Keaton from the Tim Burton versions. Val Kilmer and George Clooney were both still better than Ben Affleck. Just as Nolan needed to cast a successful Bruce Wayne, he needed to adapt an acceptable Batmobile. Production designer Nathan Crowley modeled the new Batmobile from a Play-Doh version crafted by Nolan himself. Described as a cross between a Lamborghini and a tank, the Tumbler succeeded everyone's wildest expectations. The Tumbler is a vigilant utility belt on wheels. Accessories include stealth mode, a grappling hook, missile launchers, and a jet engine for boost jumps. Best of all, if the Tumbler takes too much damage, the front wheels eject, and it transforms into a 2-wheeled Batpod. The Batpod still includes the grappling hook, cannons, and a machine gun. Until a real-life Tumbler is created, we'll have to stick with conventional ramps when we jump our cars across buildings.
14.
14. Nothing will replace Tim Burton's Batmobile. Of all the fictional cars and movies, only the Batmobile deserves 2 spots on our list. The Tumbler from the Dark Knight trilogy is only so awesome because its predecessor, the Batmobile from Tim Burton's Batman, became the most iconic superhero car of all time. 1989's Batmobile introduced the grappling hook for 360-degree turns, a jet turbine engine, a big missile mode, similar to the Batpod, and a super-intelligent computer. Updated versions of all these traits were used for the Tumbler, but the original retained a few unique abilities. The most notable trait that's unique to 1989's Batmobile is its shielding system seen in Batman Returns. When Wayne leaves the Batmobile unattended, he activates a shield which is basically a sleeve of armored panels that cover the vehicle like a slinky. It's likely that the Tumbler stealth mode serves as a replacement for the Batmobile's shield mode, but what good is owning a Batmobile if your neighbors can't see it in the driveway?
13.
Vin Diesel's Dodge Charger does what? The Fast and the Furious is now the 6th most successful film franchise, with a total gross of over $5 billion. Universal's Goldmine action series is so impressive because it brought underground racing to the masses and popularized a new form of cartooning culture. We had no idea how much we needed to tune a Toyota Supra so it could do a quarter mile in 10 seconds until Paul Walker did. There are countless modified cars from the Fast series that fans wished existed, but Dominic Toretto's Vin Diesel customized 1970 Dodge Charger RT is the creme de la creme. At the end of the first film, Toretto races his cherished Charger against O'Connor's Supra in a display of mechanical pageantry. The story goes that Toretto built the Charger with his late father. It has a 426 Hemi V8, a supercharger protruding through the hood, and boasts 900 horsepower. O'Connor's Supra barely keeps up with a tank of nitro-us. The lesson learned is that a 900 horsepower Charger provides enough torque to do what every Hot Wheels owner always dreamed of, car wheelies. 12. Today's ghost hunters wish they had an ECT 0-1. For some reason, reboots or remakes of comedies often struggle more than other genres, e.g., Vacation, The Pink Panther, Arthur. Somehow, one of history's worst comedy reboots was one of its more recent ones. Released in 2016, the all-female version of Ghostbusters wasn't necessarily the worst movie, but its high expectations pretty much sealed its fate. The bar was set too high. Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, and Paul Feig just had a hit with Bridesmaids. Several Ghostbusters scripts were infamously reworked over a period of decades, and everyone was hyped for the idea of an all-female cast. Instead of nostalgia, the reboot was a big-budget snorefest, and even the new Ecto1 fell short. The original Ecto1 was just too cool for school. It was a 1959 ambulance hearse combo with room for proton packs, a signature Ghostbusters alarm to wave through traffic, and its own Mewing trap for catching ghosts outdoors. The Ecto1 is also marked with no ghost logos on the doors and hood, which is now one of the world's most recognized badges.
11.
The best spies drive Aston Martins. Ian Fleming's James Bond series was adapted to become one of cinema's longest-running and most successful film franchises. They'll be making Bond movies for our grandkids' grandkids, which is fantastic, because every generation deserves their own array of Bonds, villains, and tricked-out spy cars. Whether it's Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan, or Daniel Craig, we each have a favorite 007. Regardless of opinion, we all must accept that Bond wouldn't be Bond if it weren't for Sean Connery. Equally important to Bond's image is Connery's 1963 Aston Martin DB5 from Goldfinger. Bond's iconic English roadster included radar, a bulletproof shield, dual machine guns, and a retractable tire slasher. The DB5 became the prototype for every spy car that followed and influenced every model of Aston Martin that followed, as well. An original DB5 in decent condition will fetch at least $1 million, and Connery is directly responsible. Although visually stunning classic Aston Martins are notoriously troublesome and unreliable, the last thing a spy needs is for the ejector seats to be jammed.
10.
Where can we find Jason Statham's BMW? The Jason Statham-led Transporter movies were a delightful surprise from writer Luc Besson. They were straightforward, action-packed, and just over the top enough to be tongue-in-cheek. As homage to classic getaway driver movies, the Transporter launched Statham's action movie career. just as electric a performance as Statham's as his co-stars, a Euro model 1998 BMW 750i. In the film, the BMW was portrayed as a 1999 735i, because the 750i wasn't available in the US market, but Frank Martin's 7 Series was extra special. The luxury sedan was fitted with a 6-speed V12, which is likely impossible to find in Europe, so good luck finding one in America. Statham's Beamer isn't loaded with gadgets like most other spy cars. Instead, it's more refined to suggest that Frank is more of a regular guy than a Bond type. However, the license plates do flip over, just like Bond's DB5. In Transporter 2, Frank upgraded to a 2005 Audi A8 with a 600 horsepower W12, but the Audi didn't have nearly as much personality as the original Diggs.
9.
9. Every dog fan wants a dog van. While we want fictional cars from movies to exist, because they're extraordinarily fast or destructive, we also wish some movies' cars existed, because of their adventurous designs. Few, if any, movie cars will challenge the exceptional style and aerodynamics of Harry, Jeff Daniels, and Lloyd's, Jim Carrey, Mudcutt's van from Dumb and Dumber. This customized 1984 Ford Econoline from the Farrelly Brothers classic is a one-of-a-kind full-size van that doubles as a business. This van's 114 horsepower engine is guaranteed to get you and a buddy from Providence to Aspen at least once, and its fur exterior is so cozy, you'll forget your gloves. The radio doesn't work, so make sure to learn a few songs to sing with your travel buddy. Tragically, the Mudcutt's van reappeared in the sequel, only to be destroyed upon trying to ramp off a hill again. With that said, if you happen to stumble upon a Mudcutt's van, know that it's only good for one jump and its trade-in value is a 70 mile per gallon road hog.
8.
8. Jurassic World wishes it had the original tour vehicles back. Jurassic World is a good movie, but Jurassic Park is so much better. Maybe we're already too desensitized to seeing giant dinosaurs, or maybe Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard definitely don't compare to Laura Dern and Sam Neill. One thing that didn't help Jurassic World were those silly plastic balls they used for tour vehicles. They're called gyrospheres and they fail in comparison to the dinosaur camouflage Ford Explorer XLTs used in the first Jurassic Park. These Explorers were modified to follow along an electric grid, and they could self-navigate. That's right, they're early examples of the self-driving electric Google cars of the near future. The original tour vehicle came with cup holders and an extended sunroof, to get a better view of the already very close dinosaurs, which also happens to be just enough glass for stopping a T-Rex from eating you and your sibling, thank God. If that isn't cool enough, each tour vehicle comes standard with a pair of the slickest night vision goggles you've ever seen. Unfortunately, the trailer for Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom looks like they're sticking with those gyro wadivers, but we should still cross our fingers for an original tour vehicle cameo.
7.
7. We need greased lightning to drag race our foes. In 1978, Sandy, Olivia Newton-John, and Danny, John Travolta, taught us that falling in love is fruitless without catchy pop songs and elaborate dance routines. Until the 2017 release of Beauty and the Beast, Grease was the most successful film musical. Accordingly, the soundtrack is largely responsible for Grease's recognition, and it wouldn't be the same without the hot rod hit, Greased Lightnin'. Okay, maybe Greased Lightnin' wasn't as beloved as Summer Nights, or You're the One That I Want, but what is? Both of those songs are simultaneously stuck in all of our heads most days. Despite its song, the 1948 Ford Deluxe convertible known as Greased Lightnin' is one of the most beloved movie cars. An original deluxe will go for about $50,000, but it won't include a custom cream white paint job with lightning diesels. A stock deluxe will win a drag race, though. The Ford's Flathead V8 is on the Ward's 10 Best Engines of the 20th Century list, and is still a coveted gem in the hot rod community.
6.
6. Would the fun ever stop if we had Garth's Pacer? One of the most righteous icons to grace the silver screen is Garth's Dana Carvey Mirthmobile from Wayne's World. Including Garth's car on this list is questionable, because this car technically does exist, and recently sold at auction for $37,400. Assuming the tape deck still works, $40,000 is a steal for this vintage 1976 AMC Pacer with flamed diesels. Garth's Classic can comfortably seat 5 and includes 2 hubcaps. Don't sleep on its speed either, because this baby roars with a 4.2-liter V6. This roomy 2-door also has an automatic transmission, which makes it easy to safely rock out a queen. While the accessories do include an overhead liquorous dispenser, there is no soda gun in the center console as was seen in Wayne's World 2, so it's technically imperfect. Before selling at auction, the car was completely restored both inside and out. This is important, because we must assume that whoever bought the Mirthmobile will drive it constantly with 4 other passengers, blasting cassette tapes.
5.
5. In a zombie apocalypse, which vehicle do you choose? We each have a plan for surviving the zombie apocalypse. When the inevitable zombie outbreak does go down, one of the most important keys to survival is to find proper transportation. Great choices would include decked-out motorcycles, speedboats, and armored trucks. Obviously, each of us will only have enough time to pick one vehicle, so which do you choose? After thorough research of decades of horror films, the modified Shuttle Bus from Dawn of the Dead, 2004, should be on everyone's short list. This armored Ford Shuttle Bus has everything needed to comfortably evade zombies. It comes complete with various metal siding found in a mall garage, a wedge plow that tears through zombie crowds, and side slits that allow just enough room to fit a chainsaw or machine gun. The most compelling feature is the barbed wire roof, which is surrounded with spotlights, and includes an emergency escape hatch from which you can throw explosives. Hopefully, Ford gets with the program and starts manufacturing this post-apocalyptic version of the shuttle bus, ASAP.
4.
4. George Lucas secretly owns a Landspeeder, probably. The crown jewel of Star Wars vehicles will always be the Millennium Falcon, but we can't classify Han Solo's freighter as a car. In the Star Wars galaxy, the closest resemblance to cars would be the various forms of hovercraft. As fun as Podrasing looks in The Phantom Menace, it's Luke Skywalker's Mark Hamill Landspeeder that we wish to exist the most. As an example of the Landspeeder's influence, know that they released a very enviable special edition battery-powered version of it for kids. While there were a few different forms of speeders throughout the Star Wars chapters, like the speeder bikes they raced through the forests in Return of the Jedi, the most iconic version is the X-34 which Luke drives in A New Hope. The X-34 is what Luke drives through town with R2-D2 and C-3PO, when Obi-Wan Kenobi brainwashes the stormtroopers into believing these aren't the droids you're looking for. It's more likely than not that George Lucas owns a functioning speeder in one form or another.
3.
3. 2 Cadillacs are better than one. It took about 20 years for George Miller to finally create his masterpiece, Mad Max: Fury Road. All of Miller's frustration paid off when Fury Road opened to high praise, resulting in 10 Academy Award nominations. The world of this Mad Max installation is a post-apocalyptic desert where water is sacred, and the gods are extravagant roadsters and trucks made for war. We wish we could wage war with every car from this movie, especially the War Rig, the Charlize Theron pilots. But, among them all, Immortal Joe's Gigahertz is the most outrageous. The Gigahertz is 2 1959 Cadillac Coupe de Ville stacked on top of each other with 2 500-horsepower Chevrolet V8s and superchargers bumping it past 1,200 horsepower. The 4 rear tires are 703 in diameter. The smartest move made by anyone was made by the production designer, Colin Gibson, who found additional money so they could build a functioning engine. All the cars in Fury Road function. During production, the Gigahertz had problems overheating and was so heavy that the tires kept deflating. Hopefully, the Gigahertz remains operational and doesn't fall into the wrong hands.
2.
2. Nicolas Cage made us want to steal a $1 million Mustang. To maintain absolute accuracy, there were actually 2 Eleanors. The 2000 version of Gone in 60 Seconds is a remake of the 1974 H.B. Holicki movie of the same name. Both films have similar plots, where the main character must steal dozens of cars for a mobster boss, but only one of them has Nick Cage. The Nick Cage version also includes the better model of Eleanor, a 1967 Ford Mustang Shelby GT500. The exact car was never produced for the public, but similar models of this American muscle car will set you back at least $125,000 in good condition. Some differences in Cage's Eleanor include bullet side mirrors, custom rims, and a body kit designed by famous hot rod illustrator, Steve Stanford. Undoubtedly required, Cage's GT500 comes with a Go Baby Go button on the gearshift to initiate Nitro S for that extra boost needed to get away from police helicopters. It's too bad Ford didn't make more Eleanors, because one used in the movie sold for $1 million. 1. The Mach 5 is the least attainable and the most desired. The Wachowski siblings are among the most creative minds in Hollywood, and the Matrix franchise grossed over $1.5 billion. Aside from The Matrix and V for Vendetta, the Wachowskis made terrible movies with overly complicated screenplays and massive budgets. Warner Brothers pretty much broke even with the duo. Amidst their box office defeats was the long-awaited film adaptation of the pioneering anime series, Speed Racer, originally Mach Go. Starring the family favorite, Emil Hirsch, the film version of Speed Racer is most comparable to staring at the sun with a kaleidoscope for 165 minutes, except it's worse for your health. As bad as it was, seeing the Mach 5 on the big screen was still satisfying. Speed Racer's driving machine has it all: cutter blades to slice through obstacles, gripping bell tires, a deflector mode which makes the cockpit impenetrable, and a deployable homing robot to deliver messages while traveling thousands of miles per hour. Several unofficial replicas of the Mach 5 were built, but none of them produce anywhere near 5,000 horsepower like Speedsters. The most similar available car to the Mach 5 is a 1960s Ford GT40. As one of the rarest and most expensive American cars, the cheapest GT40s go for $5 million. GT